See.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So easy. Okay. Hello, my name is Brianna Rosenthal, and today we have Brian, say your last name for me, just so I don't mess it up.
Brian Fuentes.
Brian Fuentes and Ruby Koopman, and we are here talking about the Hong Kong the Hong Kong or excuse me. So let me get to our opening remarks. So despite immense pressure and by overcoming insurmountable odds, Jimmy Lai fought for his deep-rooted belief in people's right to be heard. His commitment to advocate and actively resist
Roger
the
that.
silencing forces that were nearly suffocating in Hong Kong gave hope to a desperate people that gave hope that change was possible. In this panel, we will discuss Lay's bravery and the principles of democracy as a whole. So, we've done a little intro of everyone so far. I'm a senior and I'm majoring in liberal studies. Do you guys want to say your grade and major?
Yeah. I'm Ruby Koopman. I'm a freshman and I'm majoring in pre-nursing.
I'm Brian Fuentes. I'm a freshman and I'm majoring in theology.
Right on. And then we have two other panelists, and all their work is posted on our Google Doc. And we are just going to dive right into question number one. Okay, so what was your favorite part of the documentary and why? Ruby, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah. I would say my favorite part of the documentary was honestly like hearing Jimmy Lai's like upbringing, and hearing like how he was working so hard, even though he did come from this like wealthy family, and then how his like work ethic pretty much built into like his business and helped him
Yeah.
flourish in all those different ways and all those aspects, and how he really built like his business from the ground up. And just hearing like that type of story is so it's so like inspiring because it is like a story of like an underdog, and just like for him growing up like in Hong Kong in like his home, it was just really cool to hear like how like he started at this like baseline, like just like working as a regular person,
Mhm.
and then was able to build everything up to like a giant like factory, like kind of like name brand type of business that he was running. And that was really cool to hear about. So that was definitely my favorite part, and definitely like the ending, just hearing like his final remarks of like what freedom meant to him and like why he chose to stand up for like what he believed in was also really cool to hear about.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment what he got to do and live through. Brian, what do you think?
And for me, honestly, I think it was like when Jimmy Lai was telling the protesters to like peacefully protest, right? Like, because
Mhm.
we saw that it got violent at one point, right?
Mhm.
And he like just by saying, "Hey, do it peacefully," kind of for me brings up current events that have happened like what the last 5 years where people protest, but then it turns really, really violent,
Mhm.
and that was like my favorite part because someone like him who is worth a lot of money, and I think they said he was like a millionaire, right? Or maybe even a billionaire.
Yeah, something
He's literally
crazy.
like out in the streets saying peacefully do it because if we don't do it peacefully, our voices are never going to be heard.
Mm.
So like even until he was arrested, he was still, hey, we do this peacefully, we seek the truth and we talk about the truth, but don't get violent, and it just really resonated. It just was awesome, it's just because nowadays you raise your voice and people want violence right away, right? And it's not okay. And so I think that was like my favorite part of the documentary, to be honest with you,
Mhm. Yeah,
and it was cool to see.
I feel like there's so much weight in being able to um express to the full degree without like crossing that boundary, without making it something petty or not mature. So it's very impressive to see how he did that and how it impacted all of the people who were
Yeah,
also advocating for the same thing.
yeah,
Awesome.
especially facing China,
Yeah.
essentially
Well,
of a global power.
it's quite impressive.
Oh,
All right. Any last thoughts for question number one? All good? Okay, awesome. So, question number two. What is one moment or decision from Jimmy Lai's life that you personally connected with and why? Brian, you want to start us off this time?
Yes, to me was when he got arrested. It
Mm,
it really like connected with me because his love for just wanting to speak the truth.
mm,
He was in it till the very end, right? Like he had to know that eventually he was going to be arrested.
hmm
And even like when I applied to my major and in faith, like that was cool to see because I'm gonna get a little religious, I guess, but as a Christian, like God calls us to fully, follow the word and stand up for the word. And like that really kind of, pieced it together where if you really, really, really are passionate about whatever you put your mind to, you're just gonna go all the way to the end. You're not gonna give up. You're gonna brush it off. And like how he posted bail was cool because he's like, hey, I got the money, right? Essentially, I can
mm,
post bail and I'm gonna keep going. So
yeah.
he knew he was gonna get rearrested. So that really resonated with me. And then the part where, when he first got arrested, where the Apple Daily staff like literally documented everything. Like they were
Mhm,
on socials, they were posting everything, and it was like, this is what's going on, this is what China's doing. Like that just shows how much he lit that fire within Apple Daily to just all his staff speak the truth. We don't lie. We don't go left. We don't go right. We don't go down the middle. We just speak the truth as it unfolds. So that was really, really cool. And he had to have been, I think he was afraid too, right? Like part of us would be afraid in that instance, but he pushed through that. He didn't care.
Yeah.
So that really, really connected with me. And it was awesome to see.
hmm Yeah, that's a beautiful perspective. Ruby, you want to go ahead and share your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. I think something that I connected with personally would be like Jimmy Lai's stance on freedom and how like humans we all have like a right to freedom at birth, but we also need to protect that right because it can kind of be taken from us and depending on like the government like it freedom means differently in different countries. Like everyone has a different definition of freedom.
Mm,
And how I really like how like Jimmy Lai's definition of freedom was so like pure and it was very raw and he was very willing to like stand up for what he believed in. Um and I feel like he really stood up not only for himself and like his beliefs but also like people around him and like his fellow Hong Kongers because what he did was like he wasn't just doing it for himself. I really believe like he did this for like the benefit of all people that he lived with and in his country. And I feel like he really did it with like a vision in mind and like a goal that what he was doing, it wasn't just like another protest, but
hmm
he had a goal and I feel like he really did achieve that goal through the peaceful protests and how it wasn't violent and how that was so like beautiful because he was doing it all like for the good of those around him.
hmm
So I feel like I would say that's what I connected with mo the most personally.
Yeah. I love the comment you made about how raw it was. I feel like that's one of like the key things that rallied so many people to support him was the authenticity behind his like motivation and just his drive. I think that's a really important thing to note.
Totally. I feel like he was so like selfless too, just like
Mm,
in the way he did it. Like
yeah.
he just put other people before him, and it honestly reminded me of like the cross and everything too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you guys are spot on. That was really raw, to be honest. That's a good
Yeah.
way of putting it, honestly. Couldn't have said it any better. That's perfect.
Mm. Alrighty. Question number 3. Lai believed that freedom requires sacrifice. Is there something in your life that you would be willing to sacrifice for a cause you believe in? Ruby, you want to start us off here?
Yeah. I definitely would say like because I'm a Christian and because I follow the Lord, there's so many things that like sacrifice means in that
Mm,
aspect. But I definitely would say like the main things would be like my identity, just like
mm,
because when you give your life to the Lord, like he gives you a new identity, you're
mm,
a new creation in him. So I definitely would be sacrificing my identity. I would totally sacrifice my comfort for the Lord, like just putting people like above me and like letting others go first and just letting go of that comfortability and like being okay with the uncomfortable.
mm,
I've been on like a few like missions trips too, and like sometimes like it's not the best like living accommodations and like you have to make these little sacrifices and stuff, or maybe you want to eat a certain food and they don't have that, and you just slowly like get used to like the uncomfortable and like exposing yourself to that, and you definitely have like these emotions that rise up within yourself, but you have to realize like this is what Jesus did his whole life. So I feel
Mm,
like there's something really beautiful in that sacrifice. I feel like I'd also totally sacrifice like my dreams and goals for like what the Lord wants to do
mm,
with my life, because like he's laid his life down for us and like we should give it back to him. So it might not always, my life might not always be like what I want it to look like, whether I want this house or this car
mhm,
or this family. And
mhm,
it totally can look different when we give our lives back to the Lord and he makes a new definition for those things.
mhm.
And yeah, I totally feel like when it comes to sacrifice, like laying down everything that like kind of you give a definition to and letting God make the definition for those things.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Brian, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to follow Ruby's chain. I mean, that's what I also put down. I mean, I would I would honestly give everything. I mean, you know, even like when I first bought this house, like I felt like God called me and my wife to get it. Primarily more her, right? But like I would willing to leave the four corners and the two
Mhm,
bedroom and the whatever. You know, if the Lord told me, hey, give it all up, I will.
mhm,
That's because that's what we're called to do. And you know, we know as the Bible says, you know, there's a lot of, especially like Job, that lost everything, right?
yeah.
And he would never fault. He fell on his faith, and he never condemned God. He never threw God under the bus. And like he
Mhm,
just kept going and going and going. And that's, I mean, I'll give it all. And like Ruby said, I'd give my identity at the end of the day. We're judged, whether you're, I mean, specifically Christians, right? But we're judged just by believing in God. You're judged by the world. And why are you doing that? That's what we get asked, right? Like, why are
mhm,
you doing that? You're in these crummy situations. They just don't understand, right? That we trust God. He paid for it on the cross with
mhm.
Christ. And yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, everything. You can have everything, God, as long as I'm following you and you're calling me to do it, I'll do it,
Mhm.
you know? So I
Yeah.
think, Ruby, you nailed it really good. I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Um, but for the most part, like even when I relate it to the documentary, right? He gave it all. Jimmy gave it all. Jimmy Lai gave it all.
Mm,
He had millions. Like he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to
mm.
protest. He could have came back to America, gone in any other country or whatever. But that's what he did. That's what his goal was. Just like us as Christians, our faith, in God. I mean, what more? What more is there to sacrifice, right? Other than
Yeah.
your life. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've got.
Mm. I think what you guys are hitting on is like that beautiful surrender is so powerful, and it's cool to be able to articulate it, especially after watching a documentary like the one we watched, to see like kind of what it looks like in different contexts and tying in the faith with it as well. Like that's beautiful. Any other thoughts for question 3?
I feel like too, like in Jimmy Lai's case, like he gave everything up too willingly, and like I can't remember if he had kids or not, but I know he had like a wife
Mm,
and she like supported him, and I feel like that was really also very beautiful because
yeah.
she understood what sacrifice meant to him and how he was willing to like do all of that even though he knew he had like a wife and he still had a family and all of those other things, and he totally gave it up just like Jesus did also.
Yeah.
It's good, like to bring up like the spouse and stuff like that. That is so true. But I think another one of his foundations was his home life, right? Like his
Mm,
wife having that strong partner that's willing to support you through it all, like, and you're willing to give that up too. Like that's
mhm,
that's that's admirable, right? Especially on his spouse's part. Like
yeah.
I'm married and I have a strong wife, and having that support system that hey, we'll give it all up anyways if the Lord calls us to. I mean, that's a really good point, Ruby. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Right on. Alrighty, question four. If you could share a cup of coffee with Jimmy Lai, what would you want to talk about? Brian, you want to start us off?
Yes, I have a lot of questions, but I'll narrow them down to I guess the four that I picked. One was I would ask Jimmy if faith factored into him standing up to in Hong Kong,
Mm.
because as we know, like especially like the Communist Party, it's very, I don't want to say satanic, right? But it's very, it's bad, right? Like they suppress people. Like you're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to leave the house at a certain time, or even if you make a certain dollar amount, right? Like you're capped. Like that's it. You're done. The rest belongs to the government. So I would definitely ask them, hey, how did faith? Because I think he was a Catholic from what I remember in the documentary. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Mhm.
So I would ask him, hey, you knew God, right? Did that also help fuel your cause essentially?
Mhm.
Another one would be if he always did he feel like God was with him throughout the whole entire process, right?
Mm.
Like I'm looking at it in faith wise, right? Like did he or did you have God right there with you and did you feel his presence with you? And another one would be, did he ever doubt the cause? Like, did he
Mhm.
ever doubt that he was going to be successful, or he was going to have essentially millions of people standing up for them for Hong Kong, especially the people at Apple Daily. Did he know that these employees were going to support him throughout the whole time?
Mhm.
And another one is, would he ever do it again? And if he did, how would he do things differently? I
Mm.
would really love to see how he would change maybe some strategies or maybe not, and see how things would have worked out. Whether if he thought it was a good idea to appoint someone else to keep going, even though, apparently everybody's going to go in jail anyways. But, what was his plan? Like
Mhm.
his 10-year plan? Did he
Yeah.
think things were going to change in Hong Kong? Or did he think that maybe the US might have been involved or something like that?
Mhm.
Definitely. I could keep going. I mean, there's multiple questions, right?
No, those are great. I love those because I feel like they prompt such deep discussion that I'm sure would amount to even further questioning. So those are great
Yeah.
questions.
It's almost a million, right?
All right, Ruby, what do you have?
I would say I would definitely ask him. I feel like I have so many too, but I would definitely ask him what provoked him to step out in faith and fight for freedom.
Mm.
Kind of like what was that drive? Like what was that internal like instinct that told him like no, this is wrong and like I
Mm.
need to step out and I need to kind of like speak on behalf for other people and kind of take the first step because that's very bold and I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are they're very used to kind of sitting back on the sidelines and they don't want to step out, they don't want to use their voice, they don't
Mhm.
want to like kind of swim against the stream and he was like the first to do that and he had no shame about it and he was confident in it and that's something that we don't see a lot, especially in America, I feel like. But we don't see that like a lot even in schools, all of that stuff. Like a lot of people have the same opinion. There's not a lot of like diversity in that sense of like different freedoms and that type of stuff. But I think I would also ask him too, like, how did his faith and religion play a part in the journey to step out in freedom? Because, I mean, like, America as a Christian nation, we had the freedoms we have because our foundations are a Christian nation. Like, no other nations have these type of freedoms we have. So it's really beautiful to see how like he had that foundation and he wanted to like step out in freedom and he wanted to, see that in Hong Kong and see that for other people around him. And I definitely would ask him too, like, how he felt living in like communist Hong Kong at the time, because I know that
Mm.
there's a lot of differences, like you can't own property and like the free speech and stuff, what Brian was saying too, how it's all very different. So I would ask him if he was like scared at all in his journey and like when
Mm.
he felt fear or like anxiety come up.
Mhm.
And then another thing I would ask him was how his family impacted his decisions and like played a role in fighting for Hong Kong's
Mm.
freedoms
Mhm.
and how like his family influenced him to step out and to like as a voice for Hong Kong and to protect them for their freedom.
Yeah.
And another question I would ask him is if he has any regrets along his journey,
Mm.
because his journey did take a lot of twists and turns, and I'm sure that he didn't know what was going to happen some days. Like, he didn't know if he was going to get arrested that day or maybe even shot.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like ups and downs in his journey, and I would definitely ask him like if he were to do things differently or if he had regrets along the way. I would be curious as to what those were.
Yeah. No, those are awesome questions. I love that. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. So, for question number five, I would love to hear your guys' response to what role do you think ordinary people like us can play in standing up for truth and justice? Brian, you can start. Or, sorry, Ruby, you can start us off.
Okay. I would say definitely like ordinary people when we are standing up for truth and justice. I feel like a lot of times we can sideline ourselves and be like, oh, my voice or my opinion or my vote doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But it really does matter because we're part of like the majority and we all have an opinion and we're all called to stand up. So I would say, when we're called to stand up for what is right and like definitely to stand up for others is really important when like other people can't use their voice
Yeah.
or maybe they're too scared or too shy. I would say standing up for them in moments with truth and justice
Mhm.
is a really big deal, and I feel like everyone should feel like enabled to do that and called to
Yeah.
stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
And then another thing I would say is um, everyone has like a different scale that they measure is like morally true and justice. So being mindful of like what other people's opinions are and how different people will stand up for different things because different people will believe this is wrong or this is right
Mm.
and that type of thing. And then I would say another thing we can do is we can all use our voices and step in for people, especially people who they don't feel like they have a voice in the
Yeah.
situation. And then another thing we can do is like look at history and look at like the history of morality and the history of truth and kind of just look to the past like for answers for when we're moving forward in the future because like if we know what's happened in history in the past, we can kind of see where we're going
Yeah.
and like the trajectory of where we're headed on when it comes to like truth and justice and how those will even change in
Mhm.
society and those will change through like societal norms.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that's very all-encompassing. That's really well said. Brian, any final closing thoughts with the couple minutes we have left?
Yeah, I mean, as far as me for this question, I I think even like voting in your local elections, right? Since this
Mhm.
was kind of like political and essentially with between China and Hong Kong. I think voting in your local elections, because a lot of people think like, oh, it's just like a like vote, you got to vote for the whole entire, federal government. But in
Mhm.
reality, what affects us are local politics, our local
Mhm.
politicians. So I think people need to also use their voice and stand up against like if they see tyranny in their local government to, stand up, use your voice, stand up, like Ruby said, for those who are don't have a voice essentially, right? To stand up for them as well. And that's what I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're called to do
Mhm.
anyways. Through faith, through Christ, through God. That's what we're called to do. Stand up for your faith, stand up for those who your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Every stranger around you is essentially should be your neighbor.
Yeah.
And just don't be afraid to take on challenges. Like I feel like a lot of people think that oh they run into an obstacle. Oh, that's it, man. I can't keep going. That's it. I got stuck.
Hmm.
No, like don't be afraid to break that barrier down. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to just stand up, have a voice. I think I see that mostly nowadays with our youth, right? That they're just like, oh, it is what it is. Carry on with the merry way. But
Mhm.
no, like stand up.
Yeah.
You stand up, and so a lot of people too, they like even in like jobs, right? Like they're like, well, I'm stuck. That's it. No, keep going, man.
Yeah.
You don't stop. Keep pushing. Don't take it. Don't take
Yeah.
it. Keep going. Keep going.
No, that's a great sentiment. And I think it really encompasses Jimmy Lay's life of keep going, keep fighting. So as we come to an end of our discussion, I hope that through this time answering questions, that the story of Jimmy Lay's bravery and commitment to democracy inspires a renewed dedication to justice and freedom. And I just want to take a moment to thank our panelists for joining us and for thinking through these questions and giving us a lot to go forward on. And we hope this acts as a foundation for further discussion. Thank you.
Bye.